Today, we're looking at 3 traits that great leaders have. As a student of leadership, I can confidently tell you that whether it's the great leaders of history or it's great leaders of our modern day, you will 100% find evidence of all of these traits in every great leader. Now, some people are naturally wired up with these 3 traits. Maybe that's you, but others have to develop them over time. What ultimately matters is that you walk away from this episode knowing exactly what these 3 traits are, why they matter, and how you can cultivate them in your own life. Because here's the thing, we can't do anything great with our life and leadership if we don't fully embrace these 3 traits. So that's why this episode is so important. Well, if you're new to the channel, I want to say a big welcome. I'm Zach. I've been in leadership roles for over a decade now. But when I first started, I really had no idea what I was doing. It really wasn't until I finished grad school that I could become a student of leadership. And that's what led to this community here today. Not only am I just fascinated by leadership, but I also really believe that leadership is the key to doing great things in this world. That's why I want to serve amazing people like you, people who want to grow and thrive and last in leadership. I genuinely believe in you. I have such a passion for helping people start their leadership journey off on the right foot, which is why I focus most of my content on emerging leaders. It would make me so happy if you learned from all the many mistakes that I've made over the years so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. But at the end of the day, this community isn't just about learning together. It's about encouraging each other. Leadership can be lonely and it can be confusing, but hopefully this community can bring some much needed sanity into your leadership journey. Every leader, no matter their experience, needs encouragement to keep fighting the good fight. It's a hard job being the leader, but I'm here to serve you in whatever way I possibly can to make it just a little easier. Every week I release new research-driven content designed with you in mind, and I hope that today's episode serves you in some way. All right, let's jump in. A couple years ago, I visited the Churchill War Rooms in London. It was an amazing experience. Winston Churchill is primarily known for his leadership as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during World War II and for his efforts in guiding Britain through some of its darkest hours, contributing to the Allied victory. And from 1940 to 1945, the War Rooms served as the command center for Britain's military operations during World War II. This is where Churchill delivered speeches. It's where he held meetings. It's where he chain-smoked cigars and worked with strategists to win the war. It's completely underground, it's hidden away, and it's entirely made up of these dimly lit corridors and tiny little rooms. And their work was often conducted during air raids that were literally thudding above. In my time there, I was most struck by the map room. The map room was staffed day and night, and it was in this room that some of the most important strategic decisions of the war were planned. It was in this room that Churchill spent the entirety of D-Day, and only a handful of people actually even knew this room existed. It was from this room that Churchill embodied his own famous words, where he said, "We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender. Victory at all costs, victory in spite of all terror, victory however long and hard the road may be." Man, it's just an inspiring place to visit. I was deeply moved by my experience there. At the end of the museum tour, I purchased a sign that bore one of Churchill's daily sayings. You should be able to actually see it right over my shoulder right here. And for whatever reason, this one line stood out to me. It became his personal leadership motto. He would stamp it on documents, and it was designed to urge immediate attention and resolution to pressing matters. Because Churchill understood that leadership demanded action. It's interesting, I walked away from that museum burdened, and it wasn't primarily by the war that Churchill had to fight and lead through, but it was by the burden of leadership itself. Maybe you can relate to that. The war between good and evil is constantly raging all around us, and you have a part to play in that. I have a part to play in that. And every day I see that sign, action this day, I'm reminded of what a leader does. A leader takes action. And that's the first trait we need to take away from today. But this is easier said than done. It may seem simple, but it's not. I think we'd all like to think that we're action-oriented people, but if we're honest with ourselves, we struggle with it, don't we? You see, taking action is the hard road. It takes energy, it takes force, it takes intentionality, it takes decision-making, it takes confidence. It takes a lot out of us. And you know what doesn't take anything out of us? Being passive. That's easy. Choosing passivity is the path that most people take. And I don't blame them. It keeps you out of trouble, out of criticism, and it keeps you out of the line of fire. It keeps you comfortable, and it keeps the status quo. But do we really want to sit back and be passive while the world just goes to hell? Is that the life that we want? I don't think so. A leader takes action. So are we going to choose to be a leader? Now, to be clear, being action-oriented isn't about just constantly being on the move, constantly busy, constantly active. It's not about that. It's about intentionality. It's about taking the right path rather than the easy path. It's about standing in the gap as a leader. And here's the thing, leadership isn't just about cultivating this in your own life. That's certainly where it all starts, but that's not what leadership is ultimately about. A leader's job is to help others become action-oriented as well. And that is hard, but that's why our second trait is so important. Let's turn to that now. Let's look at another leader who embodies this second trait that we're going to look at. Let's see if you see any of this trait in yourself. This particular leader began their journey in a small town where they first witnessed the harsh realities of life for the poor and the destitute. This leader, similar to Churchill, decided to take action, but it wasn't action alone that drove them. It all began with passion, a passion to serve the poorest of the poor. And that passion grew so intense that it quickly became a global movement. In fact, this leader was often criticized for how intense they were. Now, most people think of intensity and they imagine autocratic, dictatorial leaders just waving a fat finger around and barking orders. But I bet they don't often imagine this particular individual when they think of that kind of intense passion. And yet, it was precisely this intense passion that made Mother Teresa such a great leader. And let me tell you something, if you've ever studied her life in ministry, you know just how passionate she really was. She founded the Missionaries of Charity with just 12 members in 1950. And even after her passing in 1997, her vision was so crystal clear that it continued to expand. And now it's serving over 1 million people annually through hundreds of soup kitchens, hundreds of children's homes and clinics worldwide, with more than 5,000 nuns operating in over 130 countries now. They provide free care to the poorest of the poor, including the dying, lepers, and abandoned. It's just remarkable. You know, if Churchill showed us the power of action, Mother Teresa showed us the power of passion. You see, people don't ultimately follow talented or successful people. They follow passionate people. That's why this is so important. If you partner the power of action with the power of passion, oh my goodness. But you know, we're not done. Leadership goes beyond just being action-oriented and passionate. There's more to it. Mother Teresa actually said, I love this quote. She said, God has not called me to be successful. He has called me to be faithful. And that is our teaser into the third trait great leaders have. About 10 years ago, I was on a long flight and I was looking over the movie selection on the plane. And I came across this new movie that had just come out. It was some kind of war movie. And I knew nothing about it, but I figured I'd just give it a try. Little did I know how absolutely transformative and memorable this flight would be because of that movie that I watched. I'll never forget it. It was this movie that was based on a true story of a medic in World War II named Desmond T. Doss. Doss was a man of deep faith and really strong conviction. He so believed in the sanctity of life that he refused to carry a weapon during the war. Doss's entire story is amazing. The movie is amazing, but it all climaxes in one dramatic night during his wartime service. It was 1945. It was the Battle of Okinawa, and it was one of the most intense battles in the Pacific. Heavy, heavy casualties. And the American troops were facing some tough resistance. Countless soldiers got injured and were stuck in a vulnerable and dangerous position without really being able to retreat back to safety. And evening was approaching. Without hesitation, Das ran into the battlefield and he started pulling wounded soldiers out of harm's way into safety one by one. You can imagine the chaos of enemy fire all around and the fear that any moment could be his last. But that didn't stop Das. He just kept going. After he pulled one soldier to safety, he'd run back for another. And here's the thing, with each soldier, he would single-handedly have to lower them down a 400-foot cliff to safety, using nothing more than just a rope as a pulley system. He would carry them out of the battlefield, lower them to safety, and then go back for another, never knowing if he would survive or have the strength to keep going. And the whole time, here's the thing that I found so moving. The whole time, he'd pray, asking God to help him save just one more. And he did. In one heroic night, Desmond Doss is credited with saving over 75 wounded soldiers. It's just amazing. Of course, he was later awarded the Medal of Honor. It's an incredibly moving story. The movie is called Hacksaw Ridge. You may have seen it. You'll certainly have some sweaty eyes after watching that one. The story of Desmond Doss is a powerful example of something perhaps even more powerful than action and passion, and that's perseverance. Can you keep going even when you're going through hell? For Doss, his perseverance wasn't fueled by a pursuit of money or success or fame. It was fueled by something much deeper, much richer, and much more powerful. His perseverance was fueled by his faith in God and his belief in the sanctity of life. He couldn't fathom leaving a soldier behind, so he kept fighting over and over just to save one more. To persevere through the hardest, darkest moments, we need a deep, powerful reason to keep going. It can't be shallow. It can't be vain. So what is your reason? What keeps you going even through the hard times? You know, I'm pretty open with this community that I'm a Christian. My faith in Jesus is my reason. That's what keeps me going, even in the hard times. It's what anchors me. I'm curious what yours is. Let us know in the comments. Start a conversation. And look, if you found value in this episode, would you consider sharing it with someone else you think it might serve? That would just mean the world to me. I really appreciate you being an active part of this community. I never take it for granted. Here's your homework this week. Watch Hacksaw Ridge, if you haven't already, and just be inspired by the perseverance. Pick up Mother Teresa's A Simple Path. I have it right here. And just be inspired by her passion. This is a great book. It's really inspired me. Hey, and then maybe you add going to London to see Churchill's War Rooms to your bucket list. But if you can't make it over there easily, because you live in the US like me, I do have this little book that I picked up. It's Wit and Wisdom, little sayings from Churchill. And you know, when I have a bad day, or I feel like I've had a hard day, sometimes I'll just pick this up, read a little bit, and it just brings me back to earth and reminds me that there's a lot of other people who have lived through much harder things, and it's gonna be okay. Well, my friend, lead with action, lead with passion, lead with perseverance. Those three traits are things that we should be chasing as leaders to make a difference in this world. I'm here for you, cheering you on. Let me know how I can serve you. If you're looking for more resources to help you in your leadership, I encourage you to browse the episode description and the show notes. I've left a lot of resources there that I hope serve you in some way. As always, keep fighting the good fight. And hey, if you enjoyed this episode, I think you're going to really like this episode that'll pop up right here, where we break down 3 historical leaders who led through major crises from the 1800s all the way to our modern day. How did they do it? What can we learn from them? Do you have what it takes to lead through a crisis? Let's find out. See you over there.